What up, what up, what up? How y'all doing? I'm doing great as usual. I'm a little pissed off, but I'm still doing great. Today I heard a statement from Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya is the promoter of Ryan Garcia. Oscar De La Hoya said in a statement that King Ryan Garcia was never going to fight Manny Pacquiao. He was never going to fight Gervonta Tank Davis. And in short, he was pretty much saying that his fighter was on the internet talking BS. And this bothers me. This bothers me a lot because this is one of the problems in boxing. When I'm around my workplace or I'm talking to friends or if I'm at a club or a bar and boxing gets brought up, what is the number one thing people say why they hate boxing? Everything that I have heard is that boxing does not make the fights when the fan wants the fights. And if you look back on it, you kind of have to agree. And you really don't have to look back far. Look at Mayweather-Pacquiao, 5 years, no fight. And when we finally got the fight, it didn't live up to the expectations. It didn't. Mayweather dominated Pacquiao. Pacquiao tried to blame it on his shoulder. And whatever. And then we've got Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. We heard about that fight for 3 years. This side is talking BS. That side is talking BS. And we got to a point where Anthony Joshua lost. The fight couldn't happen. And then after that, Deontay Wilder lost. So that was 3 years for Wilder and Joshua. Fight never happened. Now, at this point in time, we are still talking about Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford. It's been at least two years, if not more. The fight is not happening. The fights that I'm talking about is what the fans want. And we go to the present day. We have one of the biggest divisions in the sport of boxing, the 135-pound division. 130-pound division. We'll go from both of those because Tank's a little bit lighter than the rest, even though he's really a 135-pound fighter. We got Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Tank Davis, Teofimo Lopez, and Devin Haney. They're considered the new four kings. All right, well, the sport of boxing is going back to Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Hagler, Duran. Those were the old four kings, but they all fought each other. So now it's time for the new four kings to fight each other. But for some reason, it's not happening. I don't care whose fault it is. I don't care why they're not happening. But the bottom line is, they are not happening. And this is why boxing is suffering. And this is also the reason why, about 10 years ago, UFC started creeping up on the sport of boxing and surpassed the sport of boxing. And I know some fans out there are not going to like this. And I don't like it either. But UFC surpassed the sport of boxing. There was once in a time where UFC couldn't even get on a network. And now they are on ESPN, the biggest sport network out there. But they're in trouble. The reason why UFC is in trouble is because they are running out of superstars. They can make the big fights with number one versus number two, but number one versus number two are not big superstars. This is where UFC is starting to fall off a little bit. Think about it. Who are the biggest superstars in UFC? Mainstream. Not great fighters, but mainstream superstars in the UFC. In my mind, I got 4 or 5 maybe. Conor McGregor. He's always going to be a superstar. But he loses. He's lost. He's lost interest. He's not fighting every 4 months like he used to. Then we got John Bones Jones in the UFC. Great fighter. Big superstar. Can't stop taking steroids and can't stop drinking and driving and can't get in the ring. Right? Then we got Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz hates the UFC, hates Dana White, and every time he fights, he disappears for another 2 or 3 years. Why? Because the UFC doesn't pay him. Then you got Khabib, the Eagle. I'm going to butcher this. Nurmagomedov. Khabib Nurmagomedov. The Eagle. The guy who beat Conor McGregor the fight before Dustin Poirier. Huge superstar. He's got Russia. He's got everywhere. America. He just announced his retirement. He said he's not coming back. Blah, blah, blah. So, boxing. Listen to me. Please. This is our chance to come back and put our foot on the neck of the UFC. How we do this is simple. Cut the BS with the 135-pound division. Cut the BS with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. and make the fights happen. Floyd Mayweather, I love you. You are one of my all-time favorites, but because of your attitude and the way you conducted and showcased your business is the reason why these young fighters are acting stupid and we do not get the fights we want to see. I forget who said it, and I'm stealing their phrase, and I wish I knew it off the top of my head to give them credit, but everybody wants to be Money Mayweather without going through the stages of being Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather. Now, a lot of the reasons why these fights are not happening is because everything is tweeted and talked about as far as what they're going to earn for money. Let's take, for example, Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford. Errol Spence Jr. said, you know what? I want to be the A side. I want 60-40, 70-30 as far as percentage for the whole show. Terrence Crawford is saying, no, you know what? I'm just as good as you. We're the top 2 fighters in our division. Let's go 50-50. They're fighting over money. It's just an ego thing. So we're not getting these fights because of money and ego. And it's very, very, very bad for the sport. Boxing has a chance, like I said, to take control of the combat world again, like they did in the late 80s and the 90s. And the fights need to happen. We can't continue with this clout chasing. I'm the A side, you're the B side. I make more money than you. Look at this stack of cash and look at my car and no, you're a bum. You can't beat up anybody. Make the fights happen. Now, boxing. This right here in 2021 is our chance to take control of combat sports. ESPN, listen to me. Listen to me. You are battling with UFC. It's top rank in the UFC under ESPN. ESPN is in a slump right now. So Top Rank, listen to me here. Let Teofimo Lopez fight Devin Haney. Make sure you get the Fury fight and Anthony Joshua fight done. That's 2 mega fights on your network in 2021. And that's just the first fight. Most likely there would be a rematch. So for your schedule for 2021, there's 4 mega fights right there on your network that you could possibly have. Okay? Fox, Showtime, DAZN, whoever's going to take control of these fights. Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Tank Davis. That fight needs to happen. That fight can happen twice. The loser gets a rematch. So there's another 2 fights. So that's 6 fights in total if each one of those fights had a rematch that people would pay money for. The boxing world would pay money for. And then you got Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. Another fight. Split promotion, Top Rank, Fox, pay-per-view, 50-50 down the middle. That could have a rematch. So there's 8 mega fights that could happen in 2021 while the UFC has nothing to go to. Now, I'm just a fan. I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about A side versus B side. I know. I'm acting selfish right now. But the sport of boxing is bigger than just a couple fighters. If we do not start making these fights, people are not going to be interested. And the sport of boxing is going to slowly dissipate. And then you're going to start seeing Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. every other month selling 2 million buys on pay-per-view. Yes, we love Mike Tyson. We love Roy Jones Jr. But that is not boxing. That is a spectacle. That is a show. We love it. We want those guys to make $100 million each. We love them. But the real hardcore boxing fans needs these fights to happen. And it's not just the fights that I named. We got plenty of huge fights. Deontay Wilder versus the winner of Dillian White and Alexander Povetkin. That's a huge fight. You can create a spectacle around that. I mean, there's 12 months out of the year. 1 or 2 shows in each month would carry the sport as far as big time fights. And then you have the lower level cards in between. And people will stay engaged. Don't just have Canelo Alvarez fighting Yildirim, and then next week later on the Zone you're going to put 2 YouTubers to face each other, and that's going to make up your numbers. Real fans are not interested in that. Yes, you'll get a handful of fans to jump in and be like, wow, YouTubers are fighting each other. But then they leave. They don't give a shit about the real boxing. Canelo, Billy Joe Saunders. That's a huge fight. And I'm a huge Billy Joe Saunders fan. But the sport of boxing would be better off if they said, fuck Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders. Canelo, you're fighting Triple G. You're going to have the 3rd fight of the trilogy. You're going to help the Zone. You're going to help the sport of boxing. And we're going to progress and just start steamrolling. We have plenty of talent coming through the ranks of boxing. And it's sad because this is the time that we can really put our foot on UFC's neck. And what's going to happen for Top Rank if all this happens? UFC has got no superstars. Top Rank can push through fights with Terrence Crawford, Tyson Fury, Teofimo Lopez versus Haney, AJ. So after the contract's up, what can Top Rank do? Hey ESPN, this is Top Rank. Hey, we just gave you 2 fights with AJ and Fury. We just gave you 2 fights of Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. We just gave you 2 fights with Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney. And we're scheduling Teofimo versus Ryan Garcia. Last year you gave us a $100 million budget. This contract, we want $400 million. And this is how we bring the sport of boxing back. We can't bring it back with talking shit on Instagram and sending out tweets and he's ducking me and he's ducking me. Oh my God, he's getting 55%. I'm only getting 45%. Nobody gave a shit about this in the 80s, in the 90s. Nobody gave a shit. The only thing that the fans cared about was making the fights. And we are on the verge of it. If we can just park a couple egos to the side, the sport of boxing can take back the #1 spot again. They really can. And I'm hoping that these promotional companies can work together. It looks like we're getting AJ and Fury sometime in June. So that'll be good, and that'll also give them a chance to have a rematch in December. Spence and Crawford, it looks like that fight's not happening. Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, it looks like that fight's not happening. And it's absolutely ridiculous. With these big fights, there's plenty of money to go around. Do the Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder deal. First fight, we both get 50-50. Whoever wins in the rematch, you get 60-40. That's how we can make these big fights happen. And I know I'm not a business guy, I'm not a promoter, I'm not a manager, I'm not a TV network, but this is what we have to do to make the sport of boxing get to #1 again and start taking in big budgets from these TV networks. The bigger budgets that we can bring in, the more money we can pay to the Terrence Crawfords and the Gervonta Davises and the Errol Spence Jr. and the Devin Haneys. The only way these kids get paid is from the networks. Now, if the networks have no budget, the fighters cannot get paid. So fighters, listen to me. Yes, every one of you deserve $1 billion every time you go into that ring and fight. I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not calling you guys greedy. I'm just saying, for your benefit, for the sport of boxing, just really think about the long-term progression of your careers and the sport of boxing. The better the sport of boxing does, the better you guys do. And I'm sorry if I'm coming off a little bit harsh here, but it's just how I feel, man. I'm getting fed up. I'm getting fed up with the big fights not happening when I know that they can happen. So, before I take off, that's my rant for the night. I wanted to go live with this conversation just so I could talk to the couple people that do subscribe to me, which is very little because I'm a new channel. So what I'm going to need you guys to do, the ticker up above, please like and subscribe. I'm going to add something else onto that. Please like and subscribe, but also share my channel. I'm a new channel, young channel. I need to grow. So I need you to share my videos to whoever. I don't care if nobody clicks on them. Just share them. Help out a new channel. I'm trying to grow. I want to get to at least 50 subscribers and then start going live and having a good conversation about boxing and everything else that's going on. So please like and subscribe and also share my channel, Moy's House. And the last video I did, I started doing, I haven't came up with a name yet for it, but fights for you and the casual fans might not have heard of. To go out there and watch and be completely blown away. I know the hardcore fans will remember these fights, but for the casual fans who might not follow all the time, if you want to become a fan, go and watch Mickey Ward versus Arturo Gatti. They've had 3 fights. The trilogy, the famous trilogy on HBO. All 3 fights are good. My favorite is 1, of course. My second favorite is fight 3. And then obviously fight 2. They're all good fights. High drama. Blood, sweat, tears, guts, hospital visits. I mean, those fights just had it all. And plus it was on the classic HBO commentary with Jim Lampley, Max Kellerman. Emmanuel Stewart was on one of the fights. But just great fights. So Mickey Ward, Arturo Gatti, 1, 2, and 3. Go check it out. If you're a fan of just fighting in general, you'll love it. So check that fight out. And like I said, please like and subscribe. And also share Moy's House. I need the help. I need new subscribers. I want to get to at least 50 subscribers before I start going live. And yeah, that's my thoughts. We need boxing to come back. And now is the time to put a stranglehold on all of these networks and prove that boxing is definitely better than the UFC. Holla at your boy, Moy's House. Peace.